Hi everyone, it's Tracy here. Today I am doing a little bit of watercoloring. So I'm starting with a piece of Tim Holtz watercolor cardstock that I cut down, and I kept it the same length, so it's 5.5 by 3 inches. And I just went over that with my powder tool. And then I am using the Fawn Hello Baby stamp set. And I'm using the little duck and the umbrella. So I'm just kind of placing those where I want them to go. I'll go ahead and pick them up with my clear acrylic block, and then I'm going to ink those up with the Versamark ink. That is the clear sticky ink that you want to use for heat embossing. And I'm heat embossing this image because I am going to color it in with my watercolors. So I don't want to use any ink that will smear or bleed when it is touched with water. So then I'm using the charcoal zing embossing powder, because I wanted it to be a black outline. You could also use like white if you wanted just a really subtle outline, or even a color like gold looks really good with watercolor. And then I went ahead and melted that with my heat tool. So to color these in, I am using distress markers. I'm using a couple different colors and just doing some really simple shading. So for this one, I am starting with the mustard seed. And I just put a little bit on my nonstick craft sheet, and then I'm picking that up with my water brush, and then I'm just coloring in that image with the color. And then to add a little bit of shading, I am going to use a darker yellow-orange color, which is the Wild Honey. I'll just put a little bit on my nonstick craft sheet, and when I pick this up with the water, it was spreading a little bit too much, so I went ahead and dried that image just a little bit with my heat tool, just so that that water wouldn't, or the color wouldn't spread so much. And then I just added that on there, and I can go back and blend it with the other yellow color that I used as well. And then for the beak and the duck's little feet, I'm using the spiced marmalade. Alright, so to color in the umbrella, I wanted to make this, it's going to be a baby card, and I wanted to do a neutral colors. So I am using the cracked pistachio, just that kind of mint green color that could be used for a boy or a girl. So I'm coloring in the umbrella with that color, and I'm just going to color in the entire thing. And then I wanted to add a little bit of shading, but I didn't quite have a color that was close, so I'm using the Shabby Shutters, or the Forest Moss, not Shabby Shutters. I'm using the Forest Moss. It's a little bit darker. And I'm just putting a little bit along the kind of crease marks, and then I'm blending that back in with more cracked pistachio. And once they blend, they look really great together. So you just kind of have to work with those colors, and you can always add more water so that the color contrast isn't so great. To create my ground, I'm using the walnut stain. So I'll just pick that up with my water, and then I'm just adding that kind of shading below the umbrella and then the duck. I just want to create that ground line for them so it doesn't look like they're floating in space. If you have trouble coloring in images, I think that using these watercolors is a really easy way to color them in. It's kind of a foolproof way, I'd say, because the colors are so forgiving, and you can always add more water to kind of blend them together. So if you haven't tried watercoloring, and especially with these distress markers or distress inks, you can use those too, I'd say give that a try, because I really liked the way that this card turned out. So then for the sky, I'm using the Broken China. It's a really light blue color. It looks really great for backgrounds because it's so subtle. And if you add more water, then it gets even lighter. So it just works really well. And I'm just coloring in kind of that scene behind the duck and the umbrella. I'm leaving the right hand side of that white still because that's where my sentiment is going to go. Alright, and I wanted to add those little splash marks for the duck to look like he was playing in the water, which isn't going to work if I have a brown ground. So I am using the blue Distress ink, and I'm just adding that. That is the Salty Ocean, which is one of the seasonal colors that when they were first released, they were in seasonal packs. So I'm just adding that blue. It's darker than the sky, and I'm just adding that below and kind of mixing that in with the walnut stain. Alright, and then I'm going to take my Broken China ink pad and then just stamp 2 of those little splash marks on either side of the duck. And then for the sentiment, I'm using the same set. I am using the words that say Happy Shower. And I'm just going to ink those up with my Tuxedo Black Memento ink and then stamp that to the right of the duck. Alright, so I'm going to let that dry and then move on to my card base. I have a craft piece of cardstock, and I'm inking up this Hero Arts background stamp with the Versamark ink. And like I said before, it's a clear sticky ink for heat embossing, but I am not going to use it for heat embossing. I'm just going to stamp it onto my cardstock and then let it dry completely. And then it just creates that water mark look, so it's a really subtle ink, and it creates a really subtle background. I really like using it for that purpose, just because there's not a lot of ink colors that match craft cardstock really well. So this just creates that look on there. So you can see that. And then like I said, I'll let that dry completely, or you could use your heat tool just so that it's not so sticky. Before I add this to my card base, I am adding a little bit of some May Arts Natural Twine. I'm cutting 2 pieces, and then I'm going to tape those to the back of my watercolor piece. So I'll just use some regular Scotch tape and tape one side to the back. And then I'll fold it over across the front and then tape that other side to the back. And then I'm going to cut one more piece and then tie a bow, but I'm going to wait to do that until I put together the rest of my card. So I'm first adding my craft cardstock to my white A2 size card base. And then to add the watercolor piece, I'm using 3D foam squares. These are the large ones from Best Creation. They're really affordable and you get a ton of them on a sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and peel the backings off from those, and then I'm going to stick that down right in the center of that craft cardstock piece. And then, like I said, I'm going to trim one extra piece of that May Arts Natural Twine and then tie a bow right in the center of that. Now I can just go ahead and trim off the extra ends. And then that is my finished card for today. So hopefully you enjoyed this watercolor tutorial. If you did, make sure you subscribe to my channel to catch all of my latest videos, and I will see you back here next time. Bye!